Set Sound, Stage 1 5E Learning Approach. This is the resource booklet that Shirley, Ricky, and I created for Stage 1 students, which addresses the concept of exploring certain characteristics of sound energy within the physical world strand. The unit of work allows students' involvement in a range of hands-on activity and engaging opportunities in honing their understanding of sound, as the context behind all the activities stem from the school's budget cut towards the music program, which inevitably results in the lack of shared musical instruments being distributed among Stage 1 students. The Engage phase consists of students using their hearing, touch, and sight senses. 3 stations are set up based on the senses. Using their hearing sense, students will listen and observe to the sound that's pre-recorded of certain instruments. For sight and touch, students will observe the instrument physical characteristics and touch instruments within a covered box. This Explore activity requires students to investigate the given question, allowing students to choose materials from the class. Their chosen materials give students the opportunity to exercise decision-making as well as critical and creative thinking in the choices that they make on the materials that they want to use. The students work collaboratively in groups to observe, collect data, and compare their recorded data to peers. This investigation activity is also a hands-on activity that I will be demonstrating from the resource booklet from Assessment Task 1. To explain, T introduces students to how Aboriginals developed and created traditional instruments using the available resources from the environment to make beautifully sounding instruments, enlightening students of the various traditional instruments that carry history and sound from the past and commonly used and known instruments that are familiar to many cultures. Students then record comparisons between tradition and modern instruments. Following the explain phase, students elaborate on their newly learned experiences and ideas from previous activities. Having watched the videos on traditional and commonly known instruments, students are tasked with gathering materials to create an instrument inspired from the videos displayed prior to this activity. Students design and create a prototype using unwanted materials from home to recycled materials, making note of necessary changes needed to finalize. To evaluate, students present their finalized instruments to the class using a short digital presentation to communicate their progress to their peers and teacher, sharing what the source of inspiration for their design was, any changes needed, and the sound the instrument makes as their presentation assessment. The purpose of this activity is to stimulate students' engagement by having them explore hands-on activity and group work to encourage kinesthetic learning, and also building on collaborative learning of students' prior knowledge and newly discovered ideas using the 5 learning approaches. This Explore phase gives students the opportunity to engage with various materials within their proximity to comprehend new ideas and build on their prior knowledge of sound. This is where the activity implements observing, collecting, comparing, and sharing ideas with peers, honing their representation skills of communicating the information they have gathered from their Explore activity. This activity links with the Science and Technology Physical World Stage 1 Outcome strand, where students will be observing, questioning, collecting data, and comparing ideas based on the sound energy investigation. The skills students will be practicing is representing observations and communicating ideas using drawn illustrations of the investigation, simple tables, and digital images to represent the information they have recorded. Common misconceptions. Music is strictly an art form. It has nothing to do with science. Science concepts teaches us that sounds are vibrations. The frequency of vibrations create different sounds, which interlink with music, since sound vibrations are placed into patterns creating music that can convey emotions in sound. Loudness and pitch of sound are the same thing. Pitch relates to the frequency of a sound made based on the judgment of a high or low key tone, whereas loudness depends on sound relates to amplitude. In this case, the objects are dropped from a constant height to produce an amplitude distinguishable from loud or soft sounds. They will teach by modeling the activity and break it up into sections. That way students can observe the demonstration and then follow through the activity the same way using the steps. While students are working in groups to do this activity, T will walk around to each group observing and guiding students where necessary to lead them into the right path. To start off the activity, T will brainstorm with the class first of various materials from the classroom that can be used in the investigation. Then T will recap on onomatopoeia words with the students using another brainstorm to activate students' prior knowledge. After this, students will be placed into groups of 4 to 5 and collaboratively work together to choose 3 classroom objects to drop and observe the sound made utilizing the brainstorm with various materials. Students in groups of 3 to 5 will choose 3 objects from class to use in this investigation. Here is an example. We have a multicolored highlighter, whiteboard duster, and a pencil. I'm using 3 pad pop sticks as uniform informal measurements along with a ruler, which is a formal method of measuring. Have students do this activity against a wall or a table where the pop sticks can be stacked up, and this will be used to drop the object from a constant height. Now that students have chosen the materials, they will use 3 powder pop sticks as uniform informal units as the constant height throughout dropping each object either on the table or against the wall where the ground is a hard surface for the impact of the object to cause vibration to make sound. Students will drop each object 3 to 4 times to get a clear clarification of the sound so that they can make a clear judgment on their observation in hearing as the object on impact vibrates, resulting in a unique sound for all objects. Students will drop each object 3 to 4 times. That way, when students observe the sound within 3 to 4 drops, students can pinpoint what sound is made and eliminate any fault in the drops that may differ to the sound made, so then it's a clearer judgment on their observation. After students have observed all objects dropped and have recorded the onomatopoeia sound, they now arrange the objects from loudest to softest. Here I have loudest to softest. Students will record their observations in their books using this table to represent their information. After students have observed all objects dropped and have recorded the onomatopoeia sound, they now arrange the object from loudest to softest. Then T will pair groups with each other to share their observations with one another and compare the similar and differences in both groups' collected data. Prior to this activity, students would have been introduced and played basic instruments in early stage 1 for music, writing descriptive text with language techniques such as onomatopoeia, using various materials as uniform informal methods of measuring, familiarizing their daily routine with common forms of energy, and being introduced to the term vibration for sound energy prior to this activity. For safety, you can never really pinpoint exactly what will happen within a classroom, and so using a brainstorm allows for T to reinforce safety issues of using sharp or metal objects, with or without students suggesting them. So materials that are sharp or are made from metal is restricted from being used to minimize risk of minor or major inflicted injuries. Students can get easily restless and unintentionally hurt others, so this is a safety consideration for both teachers and students. T can also bring up safety while brainstorming usable materials around the class when students start suggesting sharp or metal objects. Students should also wear proper uniform with closed-in shoes, which are necessary, safety glasses to protect their eyes for when objects might rebound back from the table or ground as well. Besides the classroom, where else within the school grounds could you have done this activity and why? Answer: school cola, since it's spacious and students can spread out within their group. Why was it helpful to drop each material a couple times before recording the observation? Answer: error can be made, and so dropping objects a couple times allows us to distinguish between a mistake made and focus on the sound before recording our observations down. Would the order of your material placed from loudest to softest change if force was applied to it, instead of dropping the object from a given height? What makes you think that? Answer: yes, since adding more force creates louder vibrations for us to hear the sound a lot louder than it being dropped. Evaluating doing the activity in the class. You can also do it in the playground or the school cola where it's a lot more spacious. Doing this in the class can disturb other classrooms around, especially if they're connected. Considering where the object may land, impact on hard surfaces create vibrations, creating sound in particular tones. So carpets and grass, which is a softer surface, will absorb the sound. Using positive class reinforcements, so point or sticker systems within the classroom activity to encourage students' behavior and following safety considerations of not misusing objects around the class and unintentionally injuring themselves or others. The materials we used were mostly stationary within the classroom. What other materials could we have used in this activity today? Answer: kitchen utensils from home or the staff room, food and nature's given resources, sticks, rocks, or even leaves. Activity is not exclusive to just classroom stationery, so using other materials like kitchen utensils or even food can be considered. Constructivism is an emphasis on constructing knowledge from experiences that develop knowledge, understanding, and skill through hands-on related learning activities to make sense of the students' world around them. Students' knowledge and experiences act as a learning stimulus to engage their interests through relatable contexts that build on comprehending and making sense of information, which provides opportunities in class to learn in a sequential approach using the 5 E's. The 5E approach links with the constructivist theory as it allows students to utilize their prior knowledge and experiences with learning activities that will build a stronger foundation on their knowledge and require their active participation when learning.